Stuff y'all edit out when.
Yeah, I edit stuff out too.
Oh, okay.
What's up? What's up? What's up, world? This is Real Conversations. Oh man, I'm feeling good. I feel inspired today. Actually, I just want to say I want to dedicate this to a friend that I passed away recently, a few days ago. So, shout out to you, Chris. This episode is for you because we're trying to change the world one day at a time. I have a great co-host today.
Hey.
It's my mom.
That's my son.
and you know, Matilda couldn't be here today, unfortunately, but she will be back. And I have a great panel here. I have Mr. Dwayne Barnes and his beautiful wife.
Say pastor, son.
Oh, man. Pastor.
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 Hallelujah.
Amen.
Oh, man. We feel good today.
Amen.
And I have this young man. I actually met him on the train. He's giving out flyers right now. But he was so inspirational when I met him on the train that I said, dang, I got to meet up with this dude again. And guess what? He's here.
Hey.
Oh, man. So I like to, you know, I want you guys to introduce yourselves the way you can.
Okay. Well, again, I'm Pastor Barnes, Senior Pastor of Stretcher Farm Wide Ministry in Red Hook. Also co-founder of More Than Conqueror Productions.
My name is Evangelist Angela Barnes. I'm Pastor Barnes' wife, and I'm also co-founder of More Than Conquerors Productions, Incorporated.
Amen.
Hey, I'm Mr. C.Aaron Hinton. The C stands for Clifton. Founder and executive director of D.E.U.C.E.S Incorporated. D.E.U.C.E.S stands for Do Use Enlightenment and Cultural Empowerment Services. We have collaborated with Stretcher Farm Wide Ministries on a couple of events in the past, and I was thrilled when they offered me this opportunity to come on with them today.
Yes, and it's a blessing.
Yes,
we appreciate it. Real conversations appreciate
Amen.
it. So, can you just tell a little bit about, you know, your organization, your non-for-profit organization that you're running, and the things that you're trying to do in the community, Mr. Pastor Barnes?
More Than Conquerors is birthed out of the ministry Stretcher Farm Wide. And it's birthed because of the simple fact that we have a desire to be more involved in the streets. Mm-hmm. My background, coming from the 80s of substance abuse, crack, and getting caught out there and those types of things, and the Lord changing my life. But one of the things that the Lord did, He didn't just change my life, He changed my mind. He transformed my mind.
Yes.
And because of that, I felt the need that I have to go into the streets. And, you know, you are more than a conqueror in Jesus Christ. But you have to be able to teach this to the young. You have to teach it even to the older people. They need to be encouraged because they're going through things. And there's so much going on in our community. And I found that sometimes within the church, we deal with the spirituality. But sometimes we don't deal with the whole man. And that is the aim of More Than Conquerors, is to make sure that we're dealing with the whole man. We're dealing with, you know, we don't want to just teach you, you know, to be spiritual and you're still hungry. We want to also teach you and provide resources that you can go and begin to learn job training skills. And we do that through making alliances. That's why we align with such organizations as D.E.U.C.E.S, and we want to continue making alliances. Just like, you know, we know about people who are homelessness. We know about people, sometimes people are sitting right next to you in the pulpit and don't want to, you know, tell you that they got a child that's struggling with mental illness. They got a daughter that's 5 months pregnant and they don't know what to do. And we want to be able to make an organization that is transparent, that yes, we believe in the Lord. Jesus is always the foundation of what we believe in, but we want to be more open, that you can feel comfortable saying, listen, I'm because some people ain't coming in the church, so the church has to go out to them.
Right.
And that's what More Than Conquerors is about.
Can you explain what, oh man, you took me to to one of these places where I say you have to build your community, and it starts from church.
Yes.
And I do believe that. Mr. Deuces.
Hey, yeah. So I'm in 100% agreement with the minister over there, Dr. Barnes. And I always say that church is the cornerstone of the community.
Yes.
Right now, like I said, I'm the founder of D.E.U.C.E.S Inc. And if you were to Google us, you'd see a YouTube video. And the title of the YouTube video is The Homeless Nonprofit, because we literally don't have like a base where we do all of our operations and programming. So the first place I went to look for was a church, because like we said, that's the cornerstone of the community is the church, right? Any problem that anyone have in the community, they should be able to go to the church to get some help. But just as the pastor so eloquently said, nowadays some people just ain't gonna walk through those doors. It's right. For whatever reason, they just built this, I guess, distrust for what's going on, or just something is just not going on. So you got to get out there. So though we're dealing with like enlightenment and cultural empowerment, we're not looking for that talented 10% of the young people out there. We're going directly to the high risk young people who really need the intervention, because if you're in that talented 10%, you have a plan. You understand? So chances are God bless the child who has his own. You know what I mean?
Of course,
so they're already going to be looked after as they go. We're out there trying to affect the ones who may not know they have an option. You know what I mean? The ones who feel that all they have is that corner store that they get dressed up to go stand in front of all day. So we catch them right out there, and we try to intervene. An ounce of prevention beats a pound of cure. And also with it,
repeat that again. I'm sorry, you got to repeat that again.
An ounce of an ounce of prevention beats a pound of cure.
Oh man.
So we try to be more proactive as opposed to reactive.
Yes.
And that's mostly what my organization is about. Our organization.
Yeah.
I had to give up the ownership because it's a community-based organization now. So
it's a community-based organization, and everything goes through the community.
Right.
Church goes through the community.
Yes.
So members of the church are in the community.
Right.
Well, church people are the community, and church people should step out the four walls. That's what I'm teaching my church today. Is that we have to be a part of the community. I'm in local government, but I can still praise God, and I love what you said, because my pastor was open to the fact that people in the church, you can hallelujah and catch the Holy Ghost and go home and be depressed and kill yourself, because we done saw that, we done heard that. But what are we putting in place for the people? So for me, and my organization is Life of Hope Counseling Center, where I provide free counseling for children at risk. Because I don't need your Medicaid card. I need you better.
Amen.
For my Social Security.
Amen.
I need you better. In order to get you better, I need you to trust me. So I need to be in the street, because I came from the street. I used to be a part of my environment, but I'm not anymore. Much like your testimony. Much like your testimony. But I'm free today, and I'm free to give.
Amen.
And if I was doing things out in the community, it's only right that I give back. So my give back is what I went to school for, what I worked tirelessly for as a mental health counselor. I understand mental health very well. And people are on the pulpit and they're mentally ill. People are in the pews and they're mentally ill. People are the president of the United States and they are mentally ill.
This is the second time she said that on the episode. But
because my heart is homelessness and mental illness, and when it compounds a community, compounds church community, compounds our children. I love that you said at-risk children, because there is a 10%, but what about the 90% that are in our public school systems? What about the 90%? What about the ones that you can't save? Because we can't save them all, one block at a time, one church at a time.
Yes.
And my son is going to say I'm taking over.
Amen.
She does take over, but for a good point, though. She makes good points. She makes valid points. Mr. Barnes, Mr. Barnes. Oh man, what you do with your vision is just amazing. Can you just give some of the resources, some of the resources that you're actually working on right now that's going to help people?
Well, one of the things we do is by going to our local meetings, Then you begin to partnership. I'm on the resident advisory board of Latrice Walker, who's the assemblywoman in our community. So as you begin to make these partnerships and get involved more and more, they become your resources because they know what's going on. And when you have to learn to deal with the politicians at that
Come on,
level,
brother.
because so many of us is worrying about way up here, but we have people that's directly affecting our lives. And so that's one of the resources is, like I said, Latrice Walker, even my brother here, Aaron. And my biggest resource is this woman sitting next to me.
Yes.
Amen.
And that's my biggest resources because there's nothing, God, in the beginning, God said it's not good for man to be alone, so he gave him a helper. And that's what I have, and she's the biggest resource because when I can't make certain meetings, she's there. She's getting our certificate of incorporation done. She's making those meetings. She's there. And when I need somebody, if we out ministering somebody, I need a song, here she comes, and that's my biggest resources, and I thank God for it. So those are some of the resources.
Oh man, you got amazing resources. You got one sitting right there next to you. Oh man, it's nothing like a strong woman behind you.
Amen.
And
Walking side by side you.
Amen.
I'm so sorry. Yes, walking side by side. Oh man. So, people, we got to understand that there are resources out here for us. I mean, the human race, not just one particular race. And we have to use them.
Yeah.
Right? You got a lot of things going on too, with D.E.U.C.E.S. And I saw your website today and I was like, man, this is it catches a child's eye, right? Because that's where it starts from. So can you just explain how you came up with D.E.U.C.E.S and your vision for the future?
Sure. So initially, our organization was just called D.E.U.C.E. That's where it was founded actually in 2009. And it was initially supposed to be a men's organization because it was supposed to be me galvanizing the men in the community and getting them together and we taking back our community, but I guess in 2009, it just either God just didn't see it that way or it just wasn't his plan or maybe I misinterpreted the signs, but I guess it happens when you're fairly new and you're coming into your purpose, because some people live their entire lives and never find their purpose. I just want to mention that. But I found mine at about the age of 25. And so I was new to the calling. And, I was like, all right, well, if a bunch of men get together, we could take back the community. It unfortunately didn't work out. So I revamped in 2010. And at that point, we were going to get with the mothers. And we was like, maybe the mothers, it's their job to, they're the ones that's, a lot of single parent homes we're living in. But because of that, they weren't really able to stand on the forefront of any type of movement. So in 2011, took a break. In 2012, I noticed that Bloomberg, I think, was in office at the time, and he was cutting a lot of funding for a lot of programming in the city. And I realized how it directly impacted communities like the one I'm from, Brownsville, Brooklyn, New York, which, by the way, is the highest concentration of public housing in all of America.
Yep.
And I was like, I thought it was a plan. It was a setup. You know what I mean? Our young people are going to be forced on the streets. Now mass incarceration going on. You know what I mean? Like, it was just all part of that system that I seen. And I was like, no, what can I do to intervene? So I literally started, getting young people off the streets and giving them, like, just providing them with positive and productive things to do right there in the moment. You understand? You have an option. You don't have to be standing here doing this. You could be over here doing this. And, sometimes that's all any young person need is just a push in the right direction, and you'll be surprised how far they'll carry themselves along the way. So when we went to get incorporated, we found out that the name D.E.U.C.E was actually taken already. It was incorporated in 93, I think, by, I don't know who, but someone else had it. So we expanded the name to D.E.U.C.E.S. And originally the acronym was going to be D.E.U.'s Education and Community Empowerment Services. But we thought that those two terms, education and community, was so cliche. And we had to really think about it. Like, what is the message that we're trying, what is the vision, you know what I mean? Because it's more than being educated, because right now we're going through, for lack of a better term, a lot of whitewashed education, and it ain't really doing us any good at this moment, you know what I mean? So what trumps that education? Enlightenment. Why? Because enlightenment is wisdom. It comes from the divine. You understand? You can't dispute that. There's nothing to debate about that. And then as far as community, we said, you know, our communities are lacking a sense of culture. You know, we don't have culture, and that's probably why it's so difficult to see us work together as a community. So we wanted to build something or create something which would be like a new culture for these young people to live by. So D.E.U.C.E.S was born. In 2014, we got incorporated. We became an official 501c3 just last year in 2016.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Because, there's a lot of steps involved, and I realized why a lot of us rather just work for somebody else, because it's really difficult, you know, the accountability and, you know, the paperwork.
Responsibility.
Yes. But I was only 25 at the beginning. You know, I wasn't really ready for. I wasn't, you know. We don't raise that. It's not in our culture. You know what I mean? Like a lot of young people, they think responsibility, or like, for instance, you know, I tell them one thing about being a leader is taking initiative. When you say the word initiative, it automatically, an average young person in our community, they think initiation. You understand? Yeah. And immediately a gang mentality is arisen. And it's like, no, that's not what I meant at all. You know? So there's something culturally that's not going on in our community that we felt like we needed to.
Home is the first place of learning.
Yes.
Right.
Home is where you teach first. And a lot of the homes have a crack in it. It's the foundation that's broken, and then they come to the church and we just teach them how to pray. But do we teach them how to live the next day? That's why churches have to be, yes, you have to belong to the community centers. You have to go out. You have to go to those community board meetings. You need to speak. You need to know what resources, what's affordable housing, but you only make $25,000 a year. Then it becomes unaffordable. It's so much that's going on in the community, and a lot of church folks are having a prayer breakfast. I'm just saying, Pastor.
I'm just saying. I'm sorry. Go ahead, man.
Oh, so I also wanted to add that as far as that goes, ignorance was becoming a big part of our culture, and that's another reason why that enlightenment is in there. You understand? Because, you know, it was becoming cool to be dumb. You know, like children didn't even desire better, you know. So if you don't want better, you'll never even look to do better. And if you don't do better, you'll never be better. So we always, you know, so that was one of the main things. And as far as what you asked earlier about the website, and they created it. These young people created that. They're more technically savvy than I am. You understand? And I may be a little more technically savvy than anyone in the room that's older than me. You know, I don't know who, because we all look the same age around here. So.
Thank you.
But one of the things I wanted to ask you, and both of you guys, Mrs. Barnes and Mr. Barnes, what's the future for your organization?
You want to answer?
Well, the future, sky's the limit for us.
Oh, man, say that again.
Sky's the limit for us.
Tweet that.
Sky's the limit, because I think he's Batman, I'm Robin. He's peanut butter, I'm jelly.
Hey. Yeah.
Whatever things, they work together. When they by themselves, they just don't have the same flavor as when you combine them. And that's what we are. When he needs to be uplifted, that's what I do for him, and vice versa. And we just want to touch as many people as we can. And see, myself being one aspect of More Than Conquerors that I have is the Healthy Living Chronicles, which was birthed from me taking a class, which is Always Fit. And I always like to give her a shout out, because that's who helped me and birth Healthy Living Chronicles, where Pastor and I, we make posts. We do posts on Facebook about being healthy.
Yeah.
About being healthy. And, you know, and it's honest, and we share very open and honest with where I was, struggling pre-diabetic, 326 pounds last year. You know, and I'm not ashamed. Before, I was like, I'm not telling my, you know, but you can't help others unless you are transparent.
Yes.
So they can be comfortable in speaking with you. And no, you're not in this alone. And whatever we want to do, or whatever vision that we want to do, sky's the limit for it. There's nothing that we won't tackle.
Yeah.
No neighborhood that we won't tackle, that we won't try to help.
I'm sorry, you got to do that again. Repeat that, because I like when people say the neighborhoods, like you have to impact your neighborhood, and then you can go to the next neighborhood and impact that neighborhood as well.
Yes, it's all about seed.
Yeah,
planting seeds.
There you go.
And if we could plant the seed here in this neighborhood, that seed, we got to treat it like a disease.
Yeah.
Come on, let us.
We have to let it be infectious. And as we know how diseases work, they pass on from one person to another person to another person.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to do with our inspiration and the encouragement that we have, and sharing our stories and collaborating with people such as yourself.
Yeah.
Collaborating, letting people know they're not alone. They're not by themselves.
Yeah.
That there are people here who honestly and truly care and love you. We know God loves us. We know that, but we love you too.
Yeah. And that's what, and I think that's what a lot of the youth, they might not get that love at home. And I was just talking, and I want to just say a shout out to everybody who came to this podcast, because C.Class is another person that I worked with, and he came on the podcast. He's from Brownsville as well. And he has a web series, and that's amazing, because in that neighborhood that he's in, when he's doing his series, the kids are out and they see that individuals, black guys, are in there with the camera, and they doing something positive for the community, and that's what it's about, and that's what Real Conversations is about. People in our community having real conversations with people in our communities. And bringing people to come on and say and talk about their visions and talk about their dreams and something that they want to, and what they want to reach for and who they're reaching for, because everybody's reaching for somebody different.
Right.
Because
the young people, the young people, they look for honesty. They want honesty when you're dealing with them, because that's how you're going to get them. You have to be transparent with them for them to come on board, because if they could smell phoniness a mile away. They can tell when you're not being sincere with them. So you have to develop relationships with them, just like we have to have our relationship with the Lord. We have to cultivate that relationship. Exactly. You can't just go and just memorize scriptures from the beginning to the end. That doesn't mean you cultivated a relationship with them. You have to read, you have to study, you have to pray, you have to get around like-minded people.
Yeah.
And that's how you have to do with the children, because we have to come to a decision where we won't be so selfish.
Yeah.
To where we don't want to share with them. We don't want to mentor them, because we're afraid of letting go some light off ourselves.
Yeah.
And another thing is, while the youth is important, we also don't want to forget adults.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you have adults that sometimes, we look at them and say, oh, they're not taking care of their children. Some of them don't know how. Some of them, because remember, these are generational things. Some of them, they wasn't raised in a certain home. So many things has happened throughout generations to the African-American home that has shattered things. I mean, we work at places where we see so many African-American men that's mentally ill, and they're not contributing as fathers. So where does that leave black women today? Some black women, they don't know what to do, because when they look for help, there's so many men that's not able to partner with them. So that we have so many that's incarcerated. Then we have so many that's locked up. And then we have so many, and I'm not trying to attack any gender, but we have a lot that's now don't have no interest in women at all. Yeah. So now where does that leave the African American woman?
Yeah.
And if we're not encouraging her, or we're not encouraging the adults, the children can be encouraged, but they still got to go back to these homes.
They still got to go home to mama.
Right. Yes. And mama needs encouraging too.
Yeah. That's why I always, me personally, I'm going to let my mom have a question, but I feel like it's always, and it should be, resources for a new mom or a mother that's quote unquote experienced but still need the guidance. So that you need parents in classes in our community. Yes. You need it was another company that was doing Baby and Me, different resources and different outlooks in our community. That way women can learn to teach their children how to do this, how to do that, how to act, how to crush your life, how to do it. Because when you don't have that mother figure in your life, you become a product of the environment, and that's not a good environment. So it just leads to negative, and it leads to imprisonment, and then sometimes it leads to life on the streets.
And
so, I'm sorry. No, I just like to rant for a minute, but because it gets crazy and it always get deeper to me. Because the things that I want to do and I want to see in my community, that's why I have this platform. That's why I feel like I like my mother was saying earlier to me. She said, "You must dream and eat, sleep this podcast thing," and I do. I do. This is something I would do just to have people on that's gonna tell me this is what I'm gonna do in my community. And you know what I say? I'm with you. I'm with you. If you need me to hand out something, if you need me to pass out something, I'm with you.
Right.
And that's what this podcast is about.
Right.
It's not about what's the latest. No, it's about real people.
Right.
Me having conversations with real individuals.
Right.
I'm so sorry. Go ahead, man.
No, and that's what you said, real conversations, and that's one of the things that I believe that God has said. We got to really deal with real topics.
Right.
You know, trauma. You have people, they'll come into you. You wonder why they got a bad attitude, and they're not telling you, well, when I was growing up, my father was raping me. They're not telling you, oh, I was beat up. And they're carrying this trauma. We got hurting people in our communities.
Yeah.
And that's why I believe so, and the people of God has the answer. Because I really believe that only through, when God changes you, he changes the whole man, and he begins to deal with those hurts. Because people hurt. But if we're not getting trained, and if we're doing the same thing over and over, the Men's Day, the Women's Day, and all of that over, no one is getting skilled. No one is being trained. So when that young woman or that young man walks in, if we don't have people who can sit down and say, I understand, baby, you don't have to wear your skirt that high. I understand. She's wearing it because that's the one thing that gets her attention, and somebody may show her some love because she feels unloved.
Yeah.
And the same thing, we don't want our people, even when they're in church, we don't want the only community teen leaders to be the gang leaders. Our children in the church should be the leaders, and they should be showing that they're politically intelligent, they're education intelligent. All of these things should start, to me, in the house of God. And that's why we're here. But unless we come out and deal with the issues and see it, because some don't want to deal with the issues because it's hard.
Yeah.
But that's why we're here.
Yeah.
You said something so key, and I think it keeps coming up in your podcast.
Yeah.
Because of our culture and our stigma about counseling. And I'm a black therapist.
Amen.
And I may not see a lot of black people because we were told when those collard greens was cutting up in the kitchen, don't go out the house and tell anybody what happened to you, but it happened in the house. So we are carrying our house in our heart where we've been abused for so many years, and then we carry it to the church, and now we don't want to tell the church because the church also has a stigma about psychology. Sometimes when my bishop is teaching, I say, this man trying to put me out of a job. But it's just, but I'm smarter than I know that's not what he's trying to do. Because psychology and Christianity do go hand in hand. When you go back and you start studying psychology, it's just a science. Why people do what they do. Why do people do what they do? Because they didn't have the platform like this to discuss their hurt and pain. Those at-risk kids that you're talking about, if they don't get the therapy, then it's going to be living within them. Generational curse.
Right.
Yeah.
I accept domestic violence because my mother was getting beaten, and it was cool. That's how we lived at home. I smoked crack. Now I smoke weed because it was cool. It was accepted. She's living a certain lifestyle. He's living a certain lifestyle. It's acceptable because that's how it is. until people have the opportunity to heal themselves, because through therapy you heal yourself. My job is just to listen and help you organize your thoughts. Right. But you will be victorious. Amen. That coupled with Jesus Christ, you can't be nothing but victorious. Amen. So the house of God has to open up more to the psychological aspect of his people if it wants his people to go forward. Because you can take me to the table and I can do some tongue and dance all day, but when I get back home, I'm being domestically beat down by my husband. And I always say, Bishop, Pastor, I'm calling you Bishop. I might be prophesying here. Amen. But let me say this to you, Bishop, because that's how I see you. It's crazy in the church. You got church folks that's crazy. I see it on Sunday. And sometimes I have to pull back and go, Lord, I don't want to bring this into the house of the Lord. But something's wrong here. People got to be delivered from the hurt that they hurt people. Yes, so that's why you got gang violence. That's why the man shot the people up in Las Vegas. Because hurt people hurt people. And if we continue to be hurt, we're going to keep hurting. So there's your generational curses. Amen. So we gotta always be out there praying for the community. The church has a bigger stand. Because see, my first sermon that I'm going to preach is Jesus took it to the street. Amen. Because he took it to the street. Amen. And if we continue to have our little in-house parties and our four walls and jump up and down with our big hats, it ain't gonna work. That's right. Because we're gonna have the answer to God, because we are responsible for the people that's not saved. Amen. And how are we gonna get to the people that's not saved if we stay inside our beautiful churches? Amen. It's not about, we are the church. Amen. We have to take the church outside to the community to meet the community. That's I'm very passionate about that. I know you can hear it in my voice. because I was a hurt person until I was fully delivered. Amen. Okay? And hurt people will continue to hurt people. So how are we going to fix this thing? We're going to have these meetings, but then we got to have follow-up. And I heard what you said. Right. Yeah. We got to have these follow-ups.
And also, that's kind of no. That's kind of.
I'm sorry, I learned my ranting from her. I just want to let people know that.
No, that's good. Like she said, she's very passionate. I think that's something we all share in this room right now. Like, we're all very passionate about what we do. Me working with the young people was because I didn't give up when things didn't go the way I envisioned them. Then I had to realize it's not in my control. Even this meeting here today, this is divine intervention at its highest. You know what I mean? You met me on the train, you understand? And then Dr. Barnes brings me in with him, and you're like, I know this guy already. So there's no mistake there. You know what I mean? Like, this is part of the Creator's plan. I was going to touch on something Angela was saying earlier about the trust factor when it comes to the young people, and being transparent. But then I also want to touch on what Dr. Barnes was saying about how systemically we have been beat down and oppressed for so long as a people. I was put in a situation fairly recently where a young 12-year-old girl came to me and she said, listen, I'm being bullied in school. Amen. And I'm looking at her because it's surprising to me, because I would have thought that she was a bully, by the way she carries herself. So for her to tell me she's being bullied in school, I'm scratching my head. It got to the point in the conversation where she was like, look, sometimes I feel like killing myself. Now, we got this trust thing with these young people where it's like, I'm telling them, you can tell me anything and, I got your back and I'm not, I'm not going to go talk. But when a child tells you something like that, by law, you understand, I'm supposed to now contact somebody. And, we don't have on-site therapists. We don't have the resources that most,
Now you do.
Well, yes, thank you. It's, again, divine intervention at its best. Yes. But what I did in that case was I referred her to a chaplain, again, thinking, church is supposed to be able to help us. So when you was talking about psychology and Christianity and how it all kind of goes together, like, it is an aspect there, because psychologically, remember, we've been beaten down for a long time. And it's not me making excuses for anybody, but it's difficult to deal with a community that is so hurt, so you don't know where to start. For me, I start with the young people because that's where my journey and my road has led me. But it doesn't mean there are not other people in the community who still need the same services. So what we try to do is, as an organization, we're like the generation gap bridgers. You know what I mean?
I like that.
Because a lot of the times, I found that people tell me I look young all the time. I'm in my 30s, so a lot of people think when I'm running around with these young people. No, I know, but people think I'm younger than what, So I'm like, no, I found that the fountain of youth lies in having respect for your elders. The more respect that I've had for my elders allowed me to be, and keep the energy and the knowledge that I have. So when dealing with these young people, I always encourage that they respect their elders. So now all of our programming is not just youth programming. It's mostly based around intergenerational. We want senior citizens to teach our young people patience. Right. Sit down, and here's a needle, and here's a thread, and you're going to learn how to actually sit in your chair for more than 20 minutes at a time, and it ain't got to be a video game you're sitting in front of that's keeping your attention. And then likewise, we want our young people to teach classes. A senior citizen may want to build a resume. You understand? And may not know how to use a computer. So now we got the young people who can teach them Microsoft Word, PowerPoint presentation, things of that nature. You understand? So that now when the senior gets up to teach the next lesson, they don't have to do it all, the old school way. They can have a PowerPoint presentation where they can teach multiple young people simultaneously at the same time. Wow. So it builds in itself. And, right now we don't have as much resources as we would want, but, the Lord makes a way,
and you speaking now, people are going to hear you. People that didn't hear you before, and the people that listen to me on this podcast, they hear you. And it's out there. Just like somebody said, it's out there for you. It's out there for you.
And that's another thing I wanted to piggyback on what your mom was saying. When you say, well, where do we start and what do we do? This is it. This is the start. I said that to my aunt the other day. She said, well, we know so much about how the government is doing this and how, we talk about the conspiracy theories and stuff. And she's like, but what are we going to do? I said, we're already doing it. We're having the conversation.
Exactly.
It starts with the conversation.
Man.
You understand?
Real conversation.
That sound like something that actually was something I actually posted a couple days ago. I said, real conversation starts with us.
Amen.
And
that's your confirmation, son.
And it does, because when you can have a room full of people who don't know each other but have one common goal, it's to build. And when I tell people that my podcast is about building, it's about building my community and linking up with different organizations to do something. I don't want any money from it. I don't want no money from it. I want to see people happy again.
That's right. Yes.
That's it. That's it. That's my problem. My problem is I want to see people happy again. And that's my issue. And
that's your solution, son.
Oh, man. What's that?
That's your solution.
Dang, man. I like it. But it's about us. Now, I'm just going off, but the age range that D.E.U.C.E.S is trying to is what's the age range for your for the kids?
It's different now. When we initially started, it was about 13 to 17.
Okay.
And we were mostly targeting the young men because those were the ones who were having the problem. Like, that's the age where they're pretty much going to, go this way or that way. You know what I mean? Right around leaving junior high, going into high school, they're becoming that young man who they are. Two things happened. Number one, I got a lot of young ladies that were coming to me in the street like, that ain't fair. You can't just be having boys and we need something to do too. You know what I mean? And I felt, it resonated in my heart when I had young ladies. I said, you know what? That's how I knew I was going in the right direction. When people are coming and demanding, you understand? Because you're providing a need and a service, there has to be a demand for it, you know? And so we made it co-ed, and I was not prepared for that at all. See, when it was all young men, it was very easy to keep them in line and keep them, you know what I mean?
The structure.
Minute I don't know how teachers do it, but I learned. It was a learning lesson for me. I had to learn real fast because I was just put in there. Like, there was no get your feet wet. You had to jump straight in. And so now we started male and female, but same age group. But then what I found out was when the conspiracy was revealed that the third grade test scores were dictating how many jail cells they were building upstate.
I did research on that.
Hold on. Say that again.
That the third grade test scores are dictating how many prison cells they build upstate. So it's like the downstate, upstate politics. Even though the majority of the people in New York State lives downstate, a lot of the law gets passed upstate in Albany. And those people, they don't govern that many people, and those people need a way of life. And farming apparently wasn't making it, so they got. But we're not going to go through the whole prison industrial complex because that's a whole show, a segment in itself. But the bottom line is when I realized that it was a pipeline from our school systems down here to the prison systems up there, it was like, 13 is not, we got to go younger now. You understand? Because how old are you when you're taking that third grade test? Like, they got to be, 10?
You're about 10 years old.
9 or 10 years old.
But you're right, because I've been up to Albany, and I don't know how many people know that when they have those trips up to Albany, that anybody from the community can go. So we need to stay in touch, because I need to see you there.
Yes.
And those are where the laws are made. Often, because I also work in Poughkeepsie, New York, when I'm taking that Metro North and I can hear Harriet Tubman running, I always imagine that. Then I begin to pass all those prisons and colleges at the same time. So that's their revenue.
Right.
So they bank on us like bacon up there.
That's their way of life. But you know what's interesting? They don't even know where the people are coming from.
No.
That their house. You understand? Like, them people who live up there, they don't really care.
They
it doesn't
don't.
matter. It's a job for them.
It doesn't
It
affect
pays
them.
their bills.
Yeah.
So
what I wanted to ask Mr. Barnes and Mrs. Barnes, my pastor, when you see homeless individuals, just explain to the resources. Just explain to people what resources is out there, and explain to people who hopefully can hear this, who needs that help. Places to go, different outlooks to look on. And then let them know that your Facebook, because I think social media is one of the biggest platforms that that gets everybody's attention.
Well, for single men, there's the assessment center, which is in Bellevue, 30th and First Avenue. That's for men. You would go there, you would get assessed, and for families, you would go to the Bronx. It's called PATH, and that's where they would go, and they'll get assessed, and the families will be assessing where they will put them at. Now, the only one I would have to look back at is single families without children. I'm not too clear on that one.
Okay.
But the ones I know that families with children, they go to the Bronx, and it's been renovated because that was a horrible condition at one time. Kids were sleeping all on the floor, and it was horrible. But now, they do place them, and we're still working on the shelter system because we got so many children in the shelter system. We was talking about that on the way, where they can't go to school. They don't have a certain set of friends because they keep switching around. But PATH and the Bronx is where you would go. You can look that up. And if you really want to look up all of these, go on the website to DHS, Department of Homeless Service, and all the information will be there.
The only reason I ask that is because people, some people that I guess is just like, well, I'm gonna pretend not to know, and I want people to know. And people have to know that when they see you and they see you, you outside and you helping the community, they might are afraid to ask you a question. They shouldn't be afraid to ask any questions. What resources is out there, because it's right around the corner from us. It's right around the corner from us. And what you doing, and I asked you before, I said, is it church based or is it just, but to me, it doesn't matter. Get the resources. Get the resources.
I was trying to find a meme that I seen the other day, and it's real interesting. I didn't want to interrupt you when you was talking, Pastor, but it was a meme that said that there's over 300,000 churches in America. Why is there over 250,000 people sleeping on the streets? And we was just the when we started the conversation, we was talking about the church being the cornerstone of the community. And it's these types of things that I believe personally what keeps people out of, it's the same thing that keeps people out of voting. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so much, they feel like there's a lot of hypocrisy in a democracy. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing like in church. A lot of people feel like, they go to church. A lot of people have this weird warped view. Oh, I'm going to get my life together and then I'm going to go to church. And in my head, I'm like, well, wait a minute. Then what do you need to go to church for?
Church is the emergency room, my people. You come in, churches have now, and I know this, Bishop, and I know that churches are now preparing. We had to take a beat down about being selfish. And and it took people of our generation to start saying, church is good, it's sweet, and we can sing Jesus Loves Me, but what's going to happen to me when I get out there on Monday? So churches are, I've seen it in my community, in the community board meetings. There are more churches that are more involved. You have to get more involved, because it can't be church as usual. It cannot be church as usual, because then we ain't doing what Christ said. Sometimes we got to go outside and say, listen, give out a coat and give out a prayer. You don't, give people your testimony. I find when I give people my testimony, I'm able to win a soul, because like you, I was there. So I can speak about it. If I was brought up in church or since I was 2, what I really got the...
What you really got to say.
What I really got to say. So I understand what you, and I become your resource. You become, because I'm going to take your flyers. I'm going to take your information. We have a resource table at church. I am the resource person at my church. So we're going to connect. I'm going to come visit you. You're going to come visit me. And that's how we build.
But you know what else I would like to piggyback on, which is, it's not even so much of the church having to come out. What I see and feel is, if they just open the doors more than once a week, you understand, it sends a bad message to the community when your doors are only open on Sunday.
I agree.
Like you said, what am I going to do Monday when I have the problem? Or, if a person is one step away from walking into that liquor store, you understand, but there's a church on the other corner, and he has to make the choice. But then when he goes to the church, the doors are closed, but the liquor store is wide open, and I got to confess my problems, my troubles, my whatever to somebody. I guess I'm going to have to settle for the bottle over here. You know what I mean? Sometimes.
I like to touch on that, if I may.
Oh, yeah, sure.
There are, other churches that are open more than just one time a week. We have to be fair in our conversation when we're talking. That there are churches that offer a lot of resources. Because, like Mother said, we have become psychiatrists, DHS workers ourselves. We have become all these things. We are the borough of churches. There is, if you may go to a corner, you're struggling, this church may be closed, but you take about 5 steps, there's one that's open. So we do have the opportunity, and I think what we have to do as a church is lift up that carpet and sweep that dirt out that we swept underneath there. We have to have that. We have to, because we a lot of us come from the South, and we've had that occasion where we don't speak on things. We sweep it under the carpet. The carpet is mounted so high now, we have to now clean that out. But just because while we're cleaning it out, we still can be effective.
And to touch on something too, all right, like me and this young lady, because we came from a certain element, we're able to go out. Everyone is not that from
Can't
that.
do outreach.
And so therefore, that's why the church is undergoing certain training and skills. That's why you have pastors saying, okay, just like what you had just said, that they're starting to say we have to go out, but they have to be trained, because you can't send somebody out there, who's never been into that, in that project, and they step up as somebody, they'll be afraid.
Of course they will.
You got to have a little swag to walk up to the project stage. You better have a little swag.
But you walk with the Lord with you at all times, though. You know what I mean?
You got to have a little...
Right.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, but continue to talk.
Because remember, so the scriptures, Jesus trained people. He didn't just say to the disciples, okay, go ahead. No, because they encountered demons, and he said, some of this don't come out like that. So he had to train them before he left. And that's the same thing. Even when people wanted to build temples, when you read the scriptures, he used skilled people. He didn't just use people to say, okay, believe in God and go on out and do this. No, because there is going to be some things you're going to encounter. There's traumatics, there's hurt, there's pain. And that's why you need to, and there is change. Because the church is realizing that we have to go out, but we have to train. I'm not going to send mother to go, that 70-year-old mother.
To go up in the project.
In the project and speak, because mother is afraid. So, but mother will be one of the support systems when we get back, and she'll say, go ahead, do y'all need anything? I could set up the coach that y'all about to take out with you. Right. And these are the things that we have to do. So it starts, just like you said, with real conversations. Yeah. Right. And this goes even in the church, the house of God. I know one pastor where he's saying, listen, we can't just have people who've been in certain positions for 40 years no more. He's making some changes. Right. But that's a younger pastor. He's just coming up from New York, and he sees what's going on, and he's making changes. But it takes time, because remember something, we didn't get here overnight. It was systematically done. Right. Yeah. So the only way it gets undone is systematically.
Right. Yes. As we close, and I just want to say I appreciate everybody coming today.
Thank you.
My mother did a fantastic job.
Amen.
Yeah, can I do a shameless shout out?
Hold on for a second. Go ahead.
I'm going to be speaking in Starrett City at the Sports Club on November 4th at 1:30 on the mental health panel.
And I will be there giving out my business cards.
Amen.
So, Mr. Bishop Barnes.
Amen.
Because we speaking everything into fruition, all right? And Mrs. Barnes. First Lady, I'm so sorry. Aaron.
Yes.
Amazing name. My son's name is Aaron. I appreciate you guys for coming out.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for the invitation.
It's a pleasure, all right, for you guys to come out. I appreciate it. I just want to read something that I posted today on Facebook. Our loss is a mother's pain. And I'm speaking now because my friend passed away. And TYB. And as we lose a childhood friend, aka a friend, his spirit continues to live on. Mm-hmm. His determination and drive will live through us. R.I.P. to Chris. And every episode that I do from today is for him, because I have the determination and drive to take this podcast to new heights. Amen. And I appreciate everybody for coming.
Amen.
It's been a very emotional couple days for me, but I got my mother and I got God.
Amen.
And I got my family.
Amen.
So I just want to close and say that. Real Conversations. I feel good. I feel great. Thank you, people. Matilda, come back.
Amen.